Hey, I'm Coach T. This is week 33, maybe, or week 30. I think it's week 33 of my C Sharp Devlog, where I'm documenting 1 year of practice and study of C Sharp. Spent a lot of weeks just learning the fundamentals. I switched to doing a little bit of web dev stuff, but I've been focused for the last 2.5 months on learning Unity. Now, my time is pretty restricted, which is a little bit of a pain point for me, a pressure point, because I have kids, I have a full time job. Especially the last couple weeks, we've been in mid-year benchmark season with kids, so my attention at work is really demanded on doing data analysis and number crunching and a lot of staring at screens. And to be honest, when I get home, the last thing I want to do is stare at more screens and do more number crunching and coding. I'm not a professional developer by any stretch. I'm a teacher, and I do a lot of data analysis for the district. So this is a hobby for me. It's just a passion. But I thought it would be fun to diary 1 year of learning C Sharp, because it was something that I bounced off really hard. So the last week was a little bit dour. I didn't have a lot of time. I was feeling a little bit demotivated, and there were a lot of work-life responsibilities that meant that there wasn't a lot of coding going on. And I ultimately had to just kind of drop it because I had other things going on for that stretch. This week has been different. I've been off for the break week. It's Saturday morning as I record. The weather hasn't dropped a lake effect snowstorm on us in about 4 or 5 days, which means I haven't spent a whole lot of time outside shoveling and chipping ice, although I am in for it this morning for sure. It's time to finally break through that pad now that it's warming up. But anyway, so I've been coding maybe an hour and a half almost every day. There were a couple days where I just couldn't get to it because we had family visits, we had friend stuff going on. But I've been diligently making sure that time is set aside to at least look at the projects, if not sit down and code. And I did code almost every day this week. I think there was really only one day where I just didn't get to it. The flip side is my other business, the side business that I run. We're nearing the end of a book production cycle, which means that there's a lot of art that I have to do now that the layout is done. And that has demanded a lot of 3D modeling time. So it's something I do as a hobby on the side. I don't know if I would want to teach anybody how to do it, but I suppose I could. But I make minis and I make 3D models, and then I do art with them to populate the book. So that demanded a lot of time. I probably put 25 hours of the free time I did have this week that wasn't coding based or wasn't playing with the kids based into the 3D modeling, and I produced a new line of minis. Those have to get photographed and get put in the book, but blah blah blah. Anyway, it's not germane to coding. The nice thing is, unlike last week, I can say I did code. Now I'm on a new laptop setup right now. I finally invested in a new laptop a couple of weeks ago. I have it set up. I'm used to working on it. I prefer working on it to my desktop, which is slowing down. And so I'm going to do the video diary today from the laptop. The camera is still in the same position. The microphone is not in the way anymore. I don't think I need it in the way anymore. So I'm going to show you what I've been working on. I have really been focused on, let me switch to this. I've been very focused on the GameDev.tv tutorial course. Now, in the past, my MO, I should be looking at this one now. In the past, my MO has been to do what the tutorial is doing, but do it in a different way. And that often leads to a lot of time spent solving problems that I cause because I choose to go off on my own. But with this particular project, which is called the Royal Run project, I'm going to mute this and play a second here in the background, just so you can see what it is that we're building. That's Steven. He's a pretty damn good instructor. We're building this lane-based infinite runner where you have to dodge obstacles and fences. Eventually, I'll have fog in there so that the pieces come hurling at you from the distance. But I'm not there yet. So I started this more or less when the break started, and I've been doing 2 to 3 videos a day. So, you can see across 7 days, I've got through 12. And I have been working on looking at the topic of the video. I gotta look at this camera. Looking at the topic of the video, and then as he introduces a problem, I will go into whatever that thing is and attempt to do it myself. And so far, I've been pretty successful. I did make one kind of instructional goal for myself this week, and that was that I would not touch AI unless I was completely stumped. And by completely stumped, I mean I've used a significant portion of my time, my limited time, trying to solve a problem. I can't go to it because I just want to check. I can't go to it because I want an answer. I got to go to, and you can see, this might still be true. No, I closed the tab yesterday. I had the Unity API, scripting API right there. So Unity scripting API documents was right there as a tab. So I spent a lot of time reading the documents. I was not allowed to use AI to debug things when it was going wrong. I had to do it myself. And the consequence was, after like 2 days, I kind of stopped thinking about it. There was only 2 points where I used the ChatGPT at all to work on code. And one time it was a hypothetical. Like, if I did it this way, would this subsequent function work? And then the other time was yesterday, and it wasn't even coding based. I was exhausted, and I was like, okay, so it was, but this function specifically spawned fence. So basically, I was looking at this available lanes, going, all right, I have 1, 2, 3 available lanes. So anytime that we count, I should have 3 until I remove them. And this is the line that confused me, because at least when you start, the index is equal to the value, right? So the 0th index has a value of 0 at runtime. The 1th index, first index, has a value of 1. Second index, or the 2nd index, I've heard some people refer to it that way, it has a value of 2. But once you select that as if you get that as your random lane and you select it, it becomes your available lane. Then you remove that selected lane's index. And this is because I was tired. I was like, isn't it possible, GPT, to end up rolling like 1 twice and then having an error? And it basically was like, no, you're probably confusing the value for the index. And I went back and I explained it to my wife, and I was like, okay, let's walk through it. I don't think I have the notes here anymore. I walked through it with her, just commenting notes like this. And I was like, this would happen, then this would happen, and then I would repeat the cycle with 1. And then I was like, oh, but the value in the first index is now 2, so it doesn't matter. Sorry. Unattractive. All right. So those were the 2 times that I utilized AI. I was really stumped. And then once I talked through it, I was like, I am too tired to do this right now. We just stopped. We just talked for a little while and went to bed. So, that felt really good to not be utilizing AI and yet to still be making progress, which I can show you. I just got to figure out which desktop it's on. There it is. This is Railrun, so it's very simple. We're not deep into it. We're going to be doing pickup collectibles next. But when I play, she works. So unlike my normal approach to working with the tutorials, I've just really been following Steven's instructions and then pausing at the end of most videos to take notes. And I think that's allowed me to consolidate and maybe even long-term encode some issues that I've run into. So, for example, like I was struggling with why would I use a list, not an array. This, you can ignore this. It's just it's saying argument out of range exception, but that's because I did something he hasn't done yet. You can see here the obstacle parents, it deletes them if they get back too far. So then it can't act on them. That was my rudimentary means of doing it because I was curious. I applied the same logic for the chunk parents. You can see it deletes chunk parents as we go. And I was applying the same logic to the obstacle spawner, but they are different things. So anyway, I struggled a little bit with the logic on why we do lists, and then I struggled with not the implementation of the list, but obviously the out of range exception stuff. But I have more or less stuck to what it is that he has us doing. And the result of that, I think, is just that I understand better rather than going off of my own, because I have that foundation set in Unity and in C#. I'm very comfortable with the C# coding. Once I take the time to solve the problem the way that he has, I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And I'll be able to use that in the future, I think. But yeah, so that's Railrun. I have been working on it. The next one is a first-person shooter, which is actually really interesting. I was sour on this project at first because I don't like infinite runners. I don't care for this style of game. What's selling me, though, is how much of this he's solving in code. A lot of it is, I mean, this is how the game starts. If we look at the prefabs, this is the prefab. You'll notice there's no fences, and that's because the fences are laid down programmatically. And that, to me, was really neat that we could do it. So we basically use a list to define these 3 possible spots as lanes, and then we populate somewhere. I think it's in the center of the chunk where those fences are going to be, and it's strictly programmatic. I like that a lot. So that's it for my coding progress this week. It's been not a lot of writing code, but it is a lot of programmatic coding work, and it's been a lot of fun. I've been having fun with it because I'm not trying to overdo it. I'm not like stuck for hours on a problem. Mostly, I'm able to debug everything on my own. Haven't run into a major issue following the directions, which is, that's a sign of a good tutorial, but it can also be a sign that you're kind of in a walled garden, as it were. But I'm solving the problems before he finishes posing them for the most part. He'll put up the solution, or not the solution, the question, and then I'll go through and solve it. And I typically run into the exact obstacles that he'll then warn you about. I haven't needed his help with the writing the functions. I haven't needed his help with naming things or with making things interact. I've solved problems in different ways a couple times, and then been able to go back and implement his solutions because I see logically why my solution ends up being a limiter based on the design features he has in mind down the line. So that's good. I'm having fun. It's being productive. So that said, it's not my own game stuff, but you know what? I have a couple of months left on before the school year ends where I can continue to develop these skills before I can really settle into spending a couple months developing my own game experience thing. The other thing is I started thinking about using Unity now that I'm starting to understand how data is stored to build a new application for teaching. It won't be right now. It won't be during the school year. I want to use this schedule that I'm on to practice just utilizing Unity. But I do think it could be neat to have a basic Unity calculator app or a classroom instruction timer that I've built and that I can just run on my phone. I haven't gotten anything to run on my phone yet, but I should be able to export to Android from Unity. And the new Unity update removes the Unity splash screen, so it would just hopefully boot instantly for me if it's just a simple calculator app for me. A calculator / timer. I use it a lot for data collection. So yeah, that's it. It's not the most productive week, but it's a hell of a lot more productive than the last 2 weeks, and it's fun, and I look forward to working on it when I have time. The 3D modeling has pretty much ended. I'm down to just having to do photography, so that should leave me more time in the evenings this week to work on code once the girls are down. And I'm keeping it reasonable because I think I was riding a little bit too hot there, and it was starting to invade the home responsibilities a couple of weeks ago. And my wife and I made some adjustments to our evening routine so that we both have the time to work on the things we want to work on and not just vegetate once the girls go down. So she'll have more time to work on her hobbies. I'll have more time to work on my hobbies. We can do it together because I have the laptop now, which is pretty nice. So I don't know. It's going good. We're going into March. I got March, April, May, and then June is the end of the school year. And I'll have part of June, a little bit of June, July, and August to start to build the top-down shooter that I want to build. So I got I'm halfway through this course. If we go back to, you can't go with me. If we go back to the where's Safari at? Safari. Yeah, if we go back to this, I've got 25-ish videos, whatever that works out to, 4 or 5 hours worth of content, maybe 3. And then I've got Sharpshooter, which is a first-person shooter game. And that's interesting to me just because I have enjoyed those types of games in the past. And then I think I'm going to start another course. I have other ones. I get that Humble Bundle was crazy. But I've got this one, Your Own Strategy Game. That is pretty interesting to me, and it's an intermediate skill one. So I think that could be a great place to challenge myself. Excuse me. And then I've also got a 2.5D RPG. That could be kind of fun if I make something for my wife, maybe, or the Unity shader graph. I don't understand anything about shaders, even in Blender. I do all my texturing by hand. But I've got all these courses. I've got a multiplayer game. I've got the strategy one. I've got third-person combat and traversal. There's a ton of stuff that I got in that Humble Bundle that I should work through. This one's only 8 hours long, and it's with Steven again. So I'm looking forward to, I don't know, I'm looking forward to the future. I got time to code. I got time to learn. And hopefully I've got time to make something that's fun. So that's it for this video log. I realize it went on for 15 minutes. It's a little bit long, but, you know, good news carries, I guess. And yeah, if you're working on something cool, like show it off in the comments. If you have a question or you got a story that's similar to mine, you're teaching yourself to code in 2025 and you're working along, post it in the comments and I'd love to respond to it. Or if you like the kind of video diary thing, subscribe. Once I start my own game, I am going to do dev diaries. I know I said I was going to do some C# instructional stuff too, but that's going to have to wait till the summer because I don't have the time right now. And I want to really think through how am I going to make my approach different than the million others that are available on YouTube. Is it really bite-sized pieces? Is it more little coding challenges? Is it showing you how to read the docs? I don't know. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. But I started to record them, and I was like, I'm basically just carbon copying everybody else. And that's not what I want to do. I want to make my videos approachable for beginners, approachable for people like me that are not young. I'm closer to 40 than I'm not, that don't have the experience and want to pick the skill up for whatever reason. You know, I think any reason that you want to challenge yourself and learn something new is a valid reason to apply yourself. So I just haven't figured out exactly what that angle is going to look like and how that affects the video formatting. But they will come eventually, I think. Especially once I pass that 1 year mark, I'll feel less stupid recording how to teach yourself C# videos. So that's it. I don't know. I guess I'll be back next Saturday with more on Railrun. I don't anticipate finishing it, but I would think if I'm doing 2-3 videos a night over the course of 5-6 nights where I have some time to code, I would think I would be pretty damn close to finishing the game by then. So, maybe 2 weeks and I'm into the first-person shooter. I have a ton of assets and models that I can put in that are my own to make it look like my own thing. I know he's going to keep it simple, but that might be something I want to spend a little time developing too. So anyway, oh boy, it leaked into 17 minutes. All right, I'm Coach T. If you're teaching yourself to code in 2025, if you are challenging yourself in 2025 to be the bigger, better person that you know you're capable of being, keep doing it. Keep pushing yourself. Subscribe to the channel if you want to do the teach yourself, learn to code stuff with me. If you got questions, drop them. If you got comments, cool. Otherwise, I guess I'll see you next week, hopefully. Week 34 will be next week, I think. I don't know. Peace.